Yo, guys, this is gonna be the most controversial video I've made so far. I will analyze which group of Latinos is more successful based on one single factor, the color of their skin. Now, before you blow up and get mad at me in the comments, just hear me out for a second. I'm not gonna say anything racist, just a little, but not enough to get my channel deleted. So, whether you're white, black, brown, or just existing, I promise this video is gonna make you uncomfortable. But it's also going to make you think. I've been analyzing why certain Latinos are more successful than others for years. I watch every interview, I read every book, and I dedicated every free minute of my existence trying to solve this mystery. I also spend half my free time on Reddit, so don't take anything I say seriously, honestly. If you're looking for an excuse to be racist, believe me, you're not gonna find it in this video. But if you want to understand why you're so lucky, poor, smart, or why good things always happen to that cousin who does nothing, well, you're in the right place. Now, can your skin color really determine your success? I chose to study the economic success of an entire community based on something as trivial as skin color because no one else has the balls or the guts to do it. And since I secretly enjoy when people try to cancel me and talk shit about me and whatever, I decided to take the risk and try to find the logic behind this. And believe it or not, I found it. Now, you might be thinking, are Latinos not all the same? Well, not really. And I mean that in the least offensive way possible. Being Latino doesn't erase racism. It doesn't erase colorism. And it certainly doesn't erase the class differences that come with your skin tone. If you're born white in Latin America, you're more likely to grow up in a family with money. You might have access to private education and make connections from a young age. However, if you're born brown or Afro-Latino, the statistics, they're not in your favor. Obviously, there are exceptions. If we look at it structurally, your skin color matters. It matters a lot. To make things more interesting for you and for me, I'm going to divide Latin society into 3 social classes: upper, middle, and lower. And you'll see what skin colors dominate each one. It's starting with the upper class. High class, the white elite. I want you to think about rich people in Latin America. Who comes to mind? Probably names like Carlos Slim, a politician from your country, a family with a European surname, or people who look more Spanish than Latino. And yes, you guessed it, most of them are white, whiter than me. And not only are they white, many of them don't even identify as Latinos when they're abroad. They see themselves as Europeans, gringos. And they do everything they can to not look like the rest of us. Why? Well, because they know that money is found elsewhere. The money is in looking international, sophisticated. That's why they speak with a forced accent, change their names on the resume. And when they step into Miami, they say they are of European roots. Hey, sir, how you doing, sir? They talk like this. They don't want to represent their country. They want to escape. Now, this group controls politics, the media, the economy. They have generational power. That means that the great-great-great-grandparents of these people already had money or influence long before they were born. So when they have kids, those kids don't compete in the same league as you or me. They're born already speaking English. They go to top universities. They travel, since they were babies. When they graduate, they have a job secure just by sending a WhatsApp message. Tírame por el WhatsApp, ya te tengo un trabajo. I'm not saying they don't work hard. I'm just saying that they started the race 10 steps ahead. And those 10 steps, for many, it can be a whole lifetime. Now, middle class, the brown Latinos. You're looking at me right now, right? Next, we have the middle class. This is where most of us are. The people who are neither rich nor poor. These people work to live and have an education, but they lack real power and influence. Now, what is the predominant skin color? Light to medium brown. It's us, the kids who grew up watching Televisa, soap operas. When everybody was white, the ones who learned English through memes and pop songs, and the ones who always wanted to be different. Because success never looked like us. And that is something that I'm trying to change. Because we were taught to blend in with the upper group. to speak more properly, to dress differently, and behave in ways that didn't feel like us, because the whiter you look, the more opportunities you get. For fuck's sake, my father named me Christopher and my brother Jonathan. So in Costa Rica, we had everybody, Jose Luis, Guillermo, Christopher. You know, it's like, it's this bias. You know what? I want to pause here so you understand that being white doesn't automatically make you from the upper class. I know that 99% of the world's population can compete with the other 1%. However, it's not a coincidence that most brown Latinos start off in a worse economic position than white Latinos. We could trace this back to the colonial era and link it even to slavery. Blacks worked the land and whites managed it. The children of whites went to university in Europe while blacks and mulattoes kept working the land. And this continued for generations. And although today opportunities are more equitable, you can't change where you come from. If you're the heir to the royal family, you're the heir to the royal family. End of story. But what do you think you'd be more likely to become if your parents and grandparents were shoemakers? You get the idea? Do you understand where I'm coming from? This entire analysis brings us to the lowest and poorest class of the Latino community, the segment of the population that no one pays attention to. Lower class, the Afro-Latinos. You see, the lowest class in Latin America is filled with dark-skinned people. And it's not a coincidence. It is the result of centuries of exclusion, slavery, and structural racism. Look at the poorest neighborhoods in Colombia, República Dominicana, Brazil. Who lives there? Afro-Latinos, indigenous people, and those with African or native features. It's no coincidence. It's a repeated pattern across the continent. These people are marginalized by the system, and for a certain population sector, they shouldn't even exist. What they think. They're not on TV, public offices, or in history books. And when they manage to succeed, they're seen as extraordinary cases, not as something normal. I know this firsthand because Hollywood rejected me more than I can count. You know, every time I auditioned for something, for a role, they always told me the same thing. You don't look Latino enough. What? You know, they didn't want somebody like me in their movies. They preferred to keep showing the stereotypical Latino. The guy with the mustache, the hat, the funny accent. Hey, sombrero. Eh. Like, what the fuck? And you know what? As long as they keep repeating the idea that we're all the same, they won't understand why things remain the same or worse for many of us. All those directors who talk about, you know, how much they love the Latino community, these motherfuckers, they call them Latinx. What they really want is a Brad Pitt with a Spanish surname or the typical Mexican who fits into the fantasy. They don't want you and they don't want me. Shout out to my Mexican brothers. I love you guys, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. They want Hector, Danny Trejo, Machete. So who's more successful then? Now that we've talked about each group, it's time to answer the $1 million question. Which group of Latinos is more successful? The quick answer is going to be the whites, the white people. But let's break it down a little bit more. If you're a white Latino, there's a small chance you have more money and more contacts than browns and black Latinos. Yeah, you're not probably as rich as Donald Trump, but at least you have a roof over your head and a bed to sleep in. You're probably gone to a good school and you had 4 meals a day. If you think you're not as fortunate with what you have, like the chance to be watching this video, I want to remind you that 1 of 3 people worldwide doesn't even have clean water. So you're actually luckier than you think. Next, we have brown Latinos. And this group can move up and down the social scale depending on the context. But in general, most brown Latinos I've met had to work twice as hard to get to where they want to be and prove they deserve to be there. I'm living proof, man. I had to work twice as hard as everybody I know because these people constantly deal with imposter syndrome, feeling like they don't fit anywhere. They're not white enough to blend in with the North Americans, but they're not black to identify with that social class. They find themselves stuck in the middle, not knowing what to do. Ni de aquí ni de allá. You know what I mean? And at last, but not at least, we have the black or indigenous Latinos. This group is screwed. Seriously. If you're an Afro-Latino, it's very likely that you were born with nothing. You probably grew up in a poor place with limited access to healthcare and education. You went to school wearing clothes. You know, the hand-me-downs from older siblings. You know, you were probably embarrassed to ask your parents for money and jumped for joy when, you know, you bought something you couldn't have as a kid. If you come from either of these last 2 groups and succeed, it wasn't by luck. You broke the matrix. You owe nothing to anyone. Many white Latinos watching this video might identify with the last 2 groups, And that's fine. I get it. You can have a white Latino and that had a tough childhood. I mean, they exist, of course. Skin color on its own isn't a very important indicator. It's just a part of a much bigger pattern that no one pays attention to because it's taboo to talk about it. My extensive research shows me that skin color is linked to something more powerful: culture. This is the true enemy of the Latino community. It's often reflected in our physical appearance. It's the reason North Americans kick our asses economically, even though both societies started from the same point. I made a video discussing the cultural differences between North America and Latin America, so go watch that now. It's in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the algorithms start pushing these videos. I'm not a victim. I'm a brown Latino, light-skinned Latino. Some people think I'm white Latino, light-skinned, doesn't matter. Hey, listen, I want to know what you represent, how your life has been. And if you like these videos, let me know. Like, subscribe. This is Chris. This is Bad Hombres TV, and I'll see you next time. Peace.